But overall, at a stage of the match when the scores were so close and the next score was so vital, we managed enough set piece parity to stay in contention. And with the overall defending still keeping the scores in single digits, it looked as though some changes needed to be made. And I guess here I'm going to have to be very careful how I word this next bit, because Conor Murray has been excellent for Ireland, not just throughout his career, but also in the Six Nations campaign. But I'm hoping, just hoping, mind, that it won't look like it's my blue goggles talking when I say that when you're talking in terms of Andy Farrell's vision for this Irish Test side, it's Jamison Gibson Park that needs to be wearing the number 9 jersey whenever possible, Rich.
And I couldn't agree with you more. And that's not my blue spectacles either. And I'm a big fan of Conor Murray. I always have been. And I don't buy into this provincial bias bullshit at all. For me, you want 4 strong provinces so that you can have a very strong national team. So I don't buy into any of that. Jamison Gibson Park is a completely different player to Conor Murray. One of my concerns when Jamison pulled up in the first match was speed. Our speed of ball is key to the way that Andy Farrell wants the boys to be playing at. And when Conor Murray started actually for that match, I thought, oh God, how, because Conor Murray is and I mean this with and this is a compliment. Conor Murray is a dementor. He is a controller who sucks the life out of the opposition. And that's what you want. You want some scrum halves and some fly halves that are going to do that for you, because there is a time in a match when you need to control, and you will control that match and kill it off and kill the opposition off. That ordinarily is as a finisher, as we call them nowadays. Now, what we were faced with at the very beginning of this campaign was Conor Murray having to step into the Jamison Gibson Park shoes and style of play. And he stepped up. He's a great professional, and he did do that. So speed was not an issue. He was getting to the ruck very quickly. So it never became an issue. That simply speaks volumes for the great professional that this guy is. So it's just that he's acclimatized to a different type of style of play. So when Jamison came on, there was the injection of pace that you ordinarily get at the start of a match from him. It is no surprise, or should be no surprise, that we haven't started that quickly without him there, because by the very nature of his style, we are very quick. Hopefully he will start against England on Saturday, and we can hit the ground running. And if we hit the ground running at speed and displaying all the skills that are on offer, then teams have great difficulty in dealing with that. But he was instrumental in the tries. And obviously one of the passes to the left, and he came on the 53rd minute. By the 56th minute, he tossed the ball across to James Lowe to score a try. That's how quickly that was the impact of that player. That's how quickly he did that. Earlier, of course, there was a beautiful up and under that Mac Hansen took in their 22. That eventually led to the try. So that's the impact that this type of player has, and I suspect it's he's good whenever you put him in. If he starts, he can start quickly. But we saw the opposite here. We saw Jamison coming in, pushing up the rev counter against the tiring Scottish side. So it swings and roundabouts, I suppose. But I prefer him starting, simply because once you start quickly, you put pile scoreboard pressure on the opposition, and then you change and dictate the game or the conduct of that particular game. But on this occasion, he came on when things were pretty tight, and he made a huge difference. It's no no coincidence that his introduction had the impact that it did.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at his the trajectory of his time here in Ireland, when he first came to Leinster and he did his 3 years, which what it was then to qualify, we were playing Schmidt ball at the time, and it was Conor Murray was the starting. So he was the guy, and that was the style of game he was learning to play. And I always could see it from him that when he was doing those box kicks, it was, you know, having been reared on a certain type of rugby down in New Zealand, that this type of game was kind of going against his DNA and what the way he wanted to play, the way, you know, he'd want to take a snipe and he'd want to do this, but no, I've got to get ready. I've got to put this up and look for chasers and play that kind of game. But then when he qualified and he came into the Ireland setup, and then Andy Farrell came along and was trying to put his stamp on the team, he was going for this new style. And at the time, we as fans were saying, we want more offloads. We want a faster paced game. This is this is the kind of game we wanted from the team. And he was there to supply it. And he's where he excels is in that, when, you know, it's one thing getting that front foot ball in their 22, but sometimes if you're up against a strong defense, you need the right number 9 moving the ball around and knowing where to go to for every play to ship the ball on and which way to send it. And then crucially, that final pass. And I think that final pass is where he excels. He doesn't just know when to play it, but he knows before he picks it up what kind of pass it needs to be, whether he needs to fizz it. I've seen him before games at Leinster, the RDS, when he's warming up. He fizzes backhanded spirals, the half the length of the pitch accurately to Luke McGrath when he's doing drills for the games. He can land that ball in a sixpence, and he finds that final pass, whether it needs to be fizzed or whether it needs just a little chuck to fall into the guy's plan. He knows how to get that final ball, and he does it every time, and he did it again here. But the other thing as well, like you say, we'll talk about their try, the tries eventually, but it's he's doing the high kicks now as well, and he's able to do the kick chases, and he's able to get to put the ball in the air, and he's added that to his game as well. It's almost the complete, and you'd almost argue that even though it's always Sexton's team, it's Gibson Park is kind of the key to it. But in terms of Murray, it's like a lot of people say, well, Craig Casey plays fast as well, maybe he should be wearing 21. But the thing is that to have Murray on the bench when everyone's fit, if you have Gibson Park starting, or Whiskey as they call him, and Murray on the bench, it's almost like a Formula One. You've got your wet weather tires and your dry weather tires, whatever, and you can play the kind of game suited to the way your opposition is playing. And I think that's the perfect balance. It's nothing about provinces. It's nothing about it's about the rugby, which it always should be. And it's the way we want to play. And and I think that right now, this is the key. And hopefully he'll be fit for Saturday and for Leinster down the line, of course, as well.